Alrighty, are we to start? Okay, good evening. Our meeting is Tuesday, May 4th. I'd like to call to order. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Prince County Council and the Planning Board of Maryland National Capital Park Plan Commission, I'd like to welcome everyone to the joint public hearing of the site designation of Harry Market in Mount Rainier. My name is Councilman Chris Together. I have the pleasure of chairing the council representative District 7. I would like to take a moment to ask each of my colleagues to introduce themselves and each county district serving, starting with Vice Chair.
Good evening, Erickson. I represent District 3.
Edward Burns, District 8. Timothy Adams, District 4. I'm doing Council District 1.
Lena Edwards.
Thank you. Now I'd like to have the members introduce themselves, starting with the chairman.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Darrell Burns, Chairman of the National Capital Park and Plan Commission.
Good evening, Manuel Charles, on behalf of the Planning Board.
Good evening, Billy Webb, Planning Board.
Good evening, Lee Matthews, Maryland Planning Board. Good evening, Lee Jenkins, Planning Board.
Thank you. The County Council and Planning Board joint holding public hearing to obtain testimony on the proposed historic site donation of the Weinstein House Harry's Market located at 422131 Street, Rainier. The hearing is being pursuant to required in section 29-12001, Historic Preservation Ordinance, petition designation of historic properties, which provides process for properties not currently listed in county inventory of historic resources to become historic sites. I'd like to also allow if there's any elected officials who are present, introduce themselves, but I don't see me in the audience. In order to allow everyone a chance to speak, we're requiring that comments be limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Your cooperation in hearing this time limit appreciated. At the conclusion of this hearing, the record will be held open for 15 days. If you wish to submit written remark, supplement testimony you give even or first submitting written comment in place of oral testimony, please provide comment via the council e-comment portal, email, or fax. The list on today's agenda close business on Tuesday, May 19, 2026. The record of public hearing testimony will close. Please note that testimony and comments will not be accepted via social media, USL, or telephone or voicemail. Following the close of the record, the board will read the test and receive the planning board, then further its recommendation on the proposed historic designation to the district council. The council turn will consider the planning board recommendation along with the oral testimony heard this evening and written testimony that's submitted for the record. Final action on the proposed historic site designation will take place in district council within 2 months of receipt of the planning board's recommendation. Thank you for participating in this evening's hearing. At this point, I would like to call the planner and the planning department's historic preservation section to provide a summary presentation of history and certificate of the property that is considered a historic preservation mission.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Oriada and members of the council, and Jim Barr, member of the planning board. For the record, my name is Katie Roan, planner 3 with the planning department's historic preservation section. The item for you this evening is proposed historic site designation of Weinstein House, Harry's Market at 4221 31st Street in Rainier, Council District 2. This evaluation was initiated through an application for historic site designation under subtitle 2101. Required public notice was provided, and the Historic Preservation Commission held a public hearing on February 17th, 2026. The party owner testified in support, and the HP voted to recommend historic site designation, and that was tonight's public hearing. The subject property is located in a roughly 0.196 acre parcel, which is part of Lot 20 in Block 10 of the Mount Rainier subdivision. It consists of an early 20th century mixed-use complex on a triangular lot, defined by historic retaining walls, walkways, and a placement of 3 intersections. The commercial portion of the building, historically Harry's Market, is a one-story stucco-clad masonry store built by 1920. It features a box roof and steel-framed windows and significant commercial features main. In 1924, 2.5-story wood-frame multi-unit dwellings added the rear wall of the store. It features wood siding, shingles, and a with porch, a complex roof form that was designed to serve the building's original 3 apartment units, and it is among the town's earliest purpose-built multifamily residences. A little bit of his context for the site. Mount Rainier developed as a street suburb in the early 20th century when modest residences and neighborhoods clustered the street terminus on Isle Avenue. In 1924, Harry and Leah Weinstein, newly married Jewish immigrant from Eastern Europe, moved to the building and opened Harry's Market. Like any immigrant family, they saw opportunity in the grocery business, which required little start capital. Small store included a meat case, a butcher block, scales, fruit, vegetable shelf, a walk-in cooler, and a can counter. And surviving receipts, rations, and other artifacts from Harry's Market are preserved in the collection of the Lilly and Al Small Capital Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. Harry's Market joined District Street Cooperative in 1928. GGS, a large regional network of Jewish independent groceries that provided shared business and social support at a time of widespread discrimination. Harry and Leah's daughters, Vivian and Ruth Weinstein, took over Harry's Market around 1962. And despite increasing competition from automobile-oriented supermarkets, the business continued operating until 1996, closing after 72 years of continuous operation and residence by the Weinstein family. It closed as one of the longest surviving Jewish-owned mom-and-pop groceries in the Washington region. At the February 17th public hearing of the Historic Preservation Commission, staff presented our evaluation with the following conclusions. 1. The Weinstein House Harry's Market can be found to meet 4 of 9 designation criteria of Title 2904A. It is identified with person or group of persons who influence society. Pardon me, just a moment. See that's on the disc, so I'm going to go to my note here. The property is associated, this is criteria 1A3 under historical and cultural significance. Property is associated with the District Grocery Stores Cooperative, a group Jewish immigrant grocers who collectively shape neighborhood commerce, support immigrants' economic mobility, and social connection in the Washington metropolitan area. And criteria 1A4, it exemplifies cultural, economic, industrial, social, political, or historical heritage of the county and urban and rural communities. The property is straight immigrant-friendly entrepreneurship, the development of the county's early 20th century street suburbs, and the tradition of independent growth to modern supermarkets. Under architectural design significance, 2A4 represents significant and distinguishable entity whose components may lack individual distinction. The property represents an early example of a purpose-built mixed-use building. Its complex four porches, eco-cladding, crest tinsling, and thriving commercial features represent distinct craftsmanship and retain substantial integrity. And 2A5 represents a solution familiar visual feature of the neighborhood, community, or county due to its singular physical characteristics landscape. The property sits in a prominent corner. It was noted as a community landmark as late as 1960, and it operated continuously in location for 70 years. Further conclude that both alterations that are made to the house and current preservation of resource type within the inventory of historic resources at the Weinstein House area's market can found to possess sufficient integrity to convey, represent, or contain the value and qualities for which it has been significant. After hearing the recommendation and support testimony from the property owner, Historic Preservation Commission voted 6-0 to approve the following recommendation. Historic Preservation Commission recommends to the Planning Board, District Council, the Weinstein House area's market, document property 60-074-5. It's 0.96 acre environmental setting, part of lot number 20 and block number 10, the subdivision of active land is Rainier, designated Prince George's County Historic Site, meeting the following criteria, subtitle 29 over A, 1A3, 1A4, 2A4, 2A5. This includes staff's presentation. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions? Seeing no questions. Do we have any comments from general public?
No speaks, Madam Chair.
Okay, that there are no speakers list and there are no comments. I will conclude our public hearing on this matter. To a motion to adjourn. Properly rose. All those in favor? Aye. Adjourn. Please take a seat as we move into a second public hearing. We'll give a moment to check the system.